Hello, in this video I'll be discussing the analysis of the data presented in this Power BI. The data was provided by Quantum Analytics. The data showed gathered information from a call center about agents and their interaction with the customers that they're providing support to. The data was already cleaned in Microsoft Excel, and then it was inputted from Microsoft Excel workbook. So the data was then modified in Power BI to add more columns for the analysis, which will then be used in creating the dashboard afterwards. So the data shows the following information for the customer service center. After modification, that's the call ID, the agent, the date of the call, the month called was gathered from the date of the call, and then we also have the time. The hour called was gathered from the time. We have the topic, the whether the call was answered or not, whether the issue was resolved while the customer called. We also have the speed of answer in seconds, how long it took for the customer to answer the call when the call first came in. The average talk duration, how long it took for the customer to talk, for the agent to talk to the customer and then offer their resolution for the customer's issue, and then the satisfaction rating afterwards. And then apart from the normal fields created from the available columns in the sheet, other fields were created for the analysis as well, which I already mentioned. And then so the fields created were count of calls answered, the average satisfaction rating, the average speed of answer in seconds, total calls received. And we can see that in our fields panel over here. You can see that the average satisfaction rating and average speed of response, these were created using measures. That's why we can see the calculated calculator symbol behind them. And then this will be the dashboard that was created. So now with the analysis, we are able to determine valuable business decisions that are most frequent topics the customer that based on the most frequent topics the customers called about, and if the agents were able to resolve the customer's concerns or not. The dashboard shows the total number of calls that was received. We also have the total average speed of answer in seconds. We have the average satisfaction rating provided by the customers after the call, and then we also have the total calls by the agents spread by total calls by agents spread by the agents by the agent. We also have the total calls by months calls. We only have 3 months data worth, so that's just January, February, and March. We also have an analysis to show the number of resolved calls by month, and then if the calls were answered or not. So we can see here that in January we have, if the calls were answered, that's when 5,000 calls were answered, and then 0.3,000 were not answered. And then and then the count of resolved, it shows the count of resolved. So this is the number of calls not the 0.3k is the number of calls not answered, and which were definitely not resolved. And then the 1.5k is the number of calls that which were resolved. So, and then we can also see different analysis showing the total number of calls that were answered, total number of calls that were not answered. So we also have an analysis here showing total calls by the hour. Now this helps us see the busiest time of the day when the customers do call in the most. And we can see that usually just from the most of 9th hour the calls coming steady, and then by the 17th hour the calls drop, and then it goes on over next day, and then that's so most likely this is the hour for the customer call center. And then we also have pie charts to show the different topics and then the rate at which the customer called in regarding this topic. So the rate is basically almost the same for all the topics, because we can see 19.5 to 20%, 20.4 for 20.38. So approximately for all the topics it's 20%. And then with this information, it's easy for the supervisors to easily know where this is lacking and what needs to be done. And then also we added a slicer based on the agent, so we can easily monitor each agent's performance and then know exactly which agent is underperforming and which agent deserves appreciation based on their performance. So key here, let's see information I'll provide for sorry low systems can calculate to And yes, that's it. So now we have information for Becky, and we can see Becky has an average rating of 3.37, answered a total of 631 calls. Average speed of answer is 5.33. And then this is total call topics Becky was able to answer. By based on the hours operated by Becky, we can see she received most of her calls with around 11 hours. Total number of calls answered is 517, and total number of calls not answered is 114. So Becky needs to do a little bit more to reduce this. And over January, February, and March, you can see the spread of the total number of calls answered not answered, and the total number of calls by month as well over January, February, and March. So we can do the same thing for all the other agents and see how each of them performed. And with this, supervisor can easily know which agent needs training or which agent needs to be promoted based on their performance. So thank you very much for joining me on this description of my analysis. I do welcome your feedback and your comments. Thank you very much. Bye bye.